camera. So we should be putting this up in the Facebook group tomorrow. Anyway, so thank you very much indeed for coming along to the first Simple Life Circle, a Facebook internet Zoom group designed purely for people who either love the outdoors, would love to know more and engage more fully with the outdoors, or for whatever reason cannot, especially during the lockdown, actually go out and enjoy the outdoors. So hopefully we can bring a little bit into their living rooms for those people. Two of us are going to be presenting the Simple Life Circle, myself, Simon, and my son, Ross.
And I'll be running a section on the West Holland Way in Scotland. Oh, we've got a late joiner.
Oh, yeah.
Hello, Judith.
Again, just to update for Judith, if we're going to be filming this, so if you don't want to be filmed. Oh, and there's another one. God, these are people who have obviously never been to ABC and knowing that on time is late. So, welcome, Lucy. So, Simple Life Circle. Ross is going to be running a little section later on looking to engage younger adults into the countryside. But just a little bit about us. For those who don't know, I've been the director of Simple Life now for 4 years. This year we've done a lot of work taking people out on guided walks. We've gone out and done talks, and we thought that during the lockdown it would be a really good activity to set up these Zoom calls for the 4 Thursdays of the lockdown initially, make them completely free, and just get people in and hopefully give out a little bit of what we know and what we love. But we also really want people to get engaged. One of the things about tonight that's brilliant for us is that Deb Jones is going to come, and we've got a little bit of video and she's going to tell us about the hedgehogs in her garden. Ash Lawrence is going to come along, and he's going to tell us why he likes going walking in the rain, which is going to be great. And we're hoping that people will get involved. We'll be able to submit us some articles for some of the sections that we've got lined up for the evening, and make them ongoing as we progress through November. If you want to put anything in the chat this evening, please do. One of Ross's jobs is to monitor the chat, and if there's anything comes through that he thinks is of interest, then we'll try and include that in what we're doing as well. Okay, so Ross, to you a little bit.
Well, yeah, I'll be running a section on the West Highland Way, which I did when I was 13, when I was 13, 2013. It's going to be a short little segment just talking about what we saw and Scotland in general. And I mean, I'm very fortunate in the fact that I was brought up on in very sort of, it's raining, so what, we're going outside. It's cold, it's wet, don't matter, dogs need walking. And I'm only fortunate for it now because from what I've picked up from that with my generation is everyone, as soon as you mention anything outside, they go, yeah, no, not bothered. And hopefully this is the start of something where we can engage my age group, because at the moment all they seem to want to know is the pub, work and spending money, and they don't seem to want to engage with nature or the wildlife that we have in our everyday lives, which we see all the time, but a lot of people don't notice.
Okay, that's brilliant. So what we'd like to just start with, and it's an introduction I've used to the walks that we do, but I think the most important thing at the very beginning of this is just to acknowledge how fortunate and absolutely amazingly lucky we actually are, not only to be alive ourselves, but to have a planet such as this amazing world, the Earth, as we've called it, to actually live on, because the chances are there isn't another place like this anywhere that is within our imaginable space, the solar system, the universe. It's something like a million, billion, 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 billion to one chance that we have this place that we can actually exist and survive and make a life on. And the chances of that happening, even within that vast space, are so, so slim. So if we just think about some of those numbers, because we are exactly the right distance from our sun. If we were any closer, for example, on Venus, we would be too hot and we couldn't live. If we were any further away, like Mars, we would be too cold. We are exactly in the right place for life to have actually started. That's pretty cool. But then you actually look at the makeup of our planet, which is different to all of the other ones that we know about. We've got this burning, red hot molten core right at the middle of our planet. And that burns just right for there to be a gaseous layer around our Earth, which is contained by the ozone layer. And for that to happen is pretty awesome, right from the beginning. But not only that, we've then got a partner in crime. We've got the moon. The moon keeps our planet stable within its orbit around the sun. Most of the planets that are out there are wobbling all over the place, but the moon gives us some gravity. And we're really, really lucky for that as well, because that's composed of debris from where we've been impacted by meteorites and things like that, as well as floating debris anyway, which made up the moon. So again, that's amazing. There are lots of other planets with moons, but they don't quite do it as well as our moon does it for us. That's pretty awesome too. And then there's timings. If you think of all the things that needed to happen at certain stages all the way through the evolution of this world, which then brought up the creatures that became the dinosaurs. If you think life almost certainly started off in the boggy, deep, dark, murky lakes, ponds and pools. From there, we had moving life. That life crawled out of the water. Some of them said, well, this is pretty rubbish, and crawled back in. And then, as we've got the dinosaurs roaming this earth, we got walloped by a meteorite, a big one. And that changed our atmosphere again. And that wiped out the dinosaurs. Because if that hadn't happened, we'd probably still be running around as little rodents about this big, which is amazing in itself again. And then if you actually think of all the different combinations that we can have within our DNA, all of the possibilities that have happened or have not happened, the fact that we happen to have got a recipe that actually works, which brings us here now in the form we are, with the ability to think, that's absolutely amazingly almost unreal. It's almost unreal everywhere else, but it actually happened here. And when we actually think about that, I think that is absolutely fantastic. But normally we just take everything that's in our world for granted. So, if one of the things we're going to look at as we progress through the next 3 weeks, and hopefully we'll carry on into December, is we're going to look at how we actually interact with that world. And on the first level, we interact with it through the 5 senses that we have. So briefly today, that's touch, which is it's the only sense we've got which is two-way. You know, you can actually reach out and touch, and you can be touched. And one of the cruelest things about the world we're in now is that, to a large extent, they've taken that hug, touch thing away from us, which is so important as human beings. We all like a hug. We all like to acknowledge each other, to shake hands or whatever. So that's an important sense. Obviously, we hear. If you're in the countryside, often you will hear things before you see them. And having a half a knowledge of what's out there is enough to perk your head up. We did a walk on Saturday. We didn't see a buzzard, but we heard them. And the minute you hear them, you look up. Where is it? You know, a big, fantastic bird that almost lives in our back doors these days. Obviously, sight, especially at the moment when we go out and it's all greens and browns and yellows and the leaves are doing their thing. You know, now the trees are shutting down. They don't need leaves. They don't need to photosynthesize. So they stop putting out the chlorophyll that makes the leaves green. They then change colour. We get the frost and the wind, and it blows them all down. It's awesome.
Sorry to interrupt you, but Deborah has just come back and says she misses hugging as well.
Yes.
So I think we all do.
Absolutely. So,
and Victoria would like to know what a buzzard sounds like.
I'd like to do an impression, but we'll make a note of that, and we'll get a recording of a buzzard for a future program, because that's exactly the feedback we need. You know, what do you want? Anyway, carrying on. The sense of smell. We had a walk in the summer in Deb Jones's country. We walked along a path alongside a hedge, and it's really warm and it's hot and the sun was beating down. We went into the woods and the whole world just changed. You know, and the sense of the smell from outside to inside, it's been staggering. Honeysuckle this year has been superb. Taste. We don't do so many tastes on our walks, but on the last one, we actually had local produce and come out. And face it, if we didn't have taste, we wouldn't have dinners. And if we didn't have dinners, most of the business that goes on in the world would never have happened. We might never have got out of the trees. So taste has got a hugely importance. So we're going to focus on those as we go through. So moving on to our next section.
Chris has just put into the group chat a video link to a YouTube video for the sound of a buzzard.
Wow.
So thank you very much for that, Chris.
Well, we're going to work out how we can actually utilise that, because as we say, the learning's in the doing and we're learning at the moment. We're going to move on to our next section, which is wonderful wildlife in our gardens. Now, we're going to do a quick screen share. Deb Jones sent us a video across earlier of the hedgehogs that she's going to talk about. There's a little collection of video. It then comes to an end and there's a couple of pictures. And after that, we're going to have a listen to what Deb's got to say to us. So just give us a moment here. We're going to need to unmute Deb's in a minute as well.
Yeah, we can do that. So thumbs up if you can see the video. That would be appreciated, or let me know in the chat. Brilliant. Well, I will press play. We have actually got
a hedgehog that's decided to hibernate in the garden, and I'm not going to go too close to the box, but the box here was made back in April just as a feeder box, and it was to stop the foxes eating the food that we left out for the hedgehogs. Anyway, so we made a little compartment inside, so you can't see right in the box because we made a compartment inside that box. So over to the left hand side there's a little hole on the inside that it can then get in, like a little maze. And it's been feeding all through the year, drinking lots of water and eating lots of cat food, and the cat food needs to only be non-fish, and it's been eating it and lovely. Anyway, went to look at it the other night and it's nested in there. We have one hedgehog, so I've now put that little box next to it. It's a proper hedgehog box, but I've now created that as a feeder box because just in case it comes out of hibernation, if the weather warms up, it may come out of hibernation.
Okay, so one of the reason that Debs is actually outside at the moment is because she's by her hedgehog boxes. Have you got anything at this moment that you could update us with 100% live as it happened in this Simple Life Circle kind of autumn watch?
Well, actually, I think, can you hear me all right, Simon?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Super. I actually think little hedgehog's fast asleep. Look, can you see the box? Can you see the box?
I can't. Oops.
Hang on.
I can see a light, but yes, we can see it. Absolutely.
Okay, so I think the little fella's fast asleep, and I just want to say, I mean, it's been the most amazing experience with this, you know, to actually see them on the lawn at one point, grunting around, taking the food, to then thinking, oh, you know what, we'll put a feeder box out, to then have them hibernate, or have this one hibernate. It's been amazing. And I've had some real ups and downs with hedgehogs, because one, and it's really sad, one actually drowned in our pond, and lots of lessons were learned from that. That's going back about 5 years ago now, very long time ago, and it really upset me. And that was what brought me to really find out more about hedgehogs and how to look after them. And what I have found, I was with someone the other day, one of my clients said to me, oh yeah, my nan used to feed hedgehogs and put milk out, and milk is not good for hedgehogs. It's not good for their gut. So that's, you know, it's really important that we don't put milk out. We just put cat food. We can boil up some eggs and crush the eggs. Don't put anything with it, or scrambled egg, but with nothing with it. Scramble the egg up, put that out. They like tomatoes. They like strawberries. What I've done now is I've actually put some mealworms out as well. But in the other box, I've put some cat biscuits, but I've only put them as meat flavour. So it's been a massive learning curve.
Sorry to interrupt you, Deb. We've had a couple of other people come back with hedgehog stories.
Oh yeah, go on.
Susie and Steve, they had a hedgehog drown as well, down a drain. And Vicky has, she says, I have a hedgehog that comes now and again. His name is Fluff. Last time I saw him, he had ticks around his face, but not seen him since. And Lucy's just asked, why can't hedgehogs eat fishy food?
It's, do you know, I don't know why, but it's because I belong to the Hedgehog Society, and it's one of the things they say, just don't give them the fishy flavour. I don't know why, but maybe they like fish, they like to kill them. Who knows, hey? But hey, but yeah, so...
Certainly hedgehogs are gluten intolerant. I don't think that affects the fish, but that's why we don't give them any dairy products or anything like that, because it just upsets them and it's not good.
Yeah, but it's been an absolute amazing experience, and I never in a million years thought that it was going to actually be. I mean, look at this. I want to show you something. Okay, see that? Can you see that? Hang on. Can you see that?
Yes. Yeah.
Right. That there cost a lot of money. That is a proper hedgehog box, and it's empty. They never chose that box. They chose the homemade one. It didn't cost hardly anything, just bits of wood shoved together, painted up, a little bit of felt on the top of it to protect it, and that's what they chose. And I'm just over the moon, absolutely over the moon. So yeah, it's great.
On the subject of hedgehog boxes, Gillian's just come back and said my sister has 4 in her garden, and 2 of them are in the box that was actually recommended by Simple Life.
Oh.
Well, I think what it is, it's like all we can do is be an estate agent for hedgehogs. You know, I mean, when we want to have a new house, we go to the estate agents and they show us 3, 4, 5, 6 houses, and we pick the one that we want. And I think it's the same with hedgehogs or with birds or whatever else. All we can do is put out the boxes and then hope that they pick the one that they want. It's a bit like kids at Christmas, though, isn't it? You give them this really expensive toy and they play with the box.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
I think that's brilliant. Do you think it's possible, because hedgehogs only come out, you only see a hedgehog during the day if it's not well? Do you think maybe when it got dark, they snuck out before you did, and they're actually off foraging somewhere and catching slugs or making their dinner, because they need about 1.5 kilometres of a night time to roam around to catch their food?
They do. I think this particular hedgehog got so used to me feeding it that I think it maybe got a bit lazy. But what I do know about hedgehogs is that throughout the hibernation period, they if it warms up, they sometimes come out of hibernation briefly and feed again. Feed, have a little bit of water, and then they go back into hibernation. And it's only very briefly, but it's only if it warms up, and they just know. And what I thought was so fantastic was at the beginning of the week, we had rain, it was mild, it was completely different. By the end of the week, by midweek, that hedgehog had built that nest because it wasn't in there. And it's completely full up. The lid is actually lifting slightly where it's so ground packed with vegetation. It's amazing.
Just think what you can achieve if you haven't got a heated building regs.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much for coming on from your garden, for filming a little video earlier, and just bringing a different viewpoint and a different factor to what we're doing tonight. It's been brilliant. Thank you so much.
It's been lovely. Absolutely my pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for doing this. I think it's amazing.
Vicky has just also mentioned, sorry to interrupt, she bought proper hedgehog food from Bybrook Barn, and the cats apparently leave it alone.
Oh, where's it from?
Bybrook Barn.
Really?
In Ashford. It's just off the A28 on the way into Ashford.
Ah, oh, can you? Yeah, so can you maybe put that on a link or something so that we've got that then, Simon? Because that's really interesting. Because I'm sick of the cats getting in there and eating the food.
It's funny actually, when we've put out hedgehog boxes, sometimes obviously clients buy it themselves, and that quite sometimes comes with a tin which has got hedgehog food written on it.
That's it.
No, it's hedgehog food because it says so on the tin. Yeah. And we know in this country you've got to put on the tin what's in it, yeah, because that's the law. But it all smells like cat food to me.
It probably is cat food.
We'd ask people, if you've got a wildlife in your garden story, please let us know. We'd love you to come on and join us, because it helps liven the show, gives everybody a rest from me and Ross, and you've got exciting stories to tell and share. And one of the things we want to do with this so much is actually get people to engage with us and to share their stories, so that we can become a real kind of little wildlife community, or an outdoors community. And the life that we've got in our gardens and in the world around us, we need to share and celebrate. So please bring your stories in and let's go from there. So thank you very much again, Debs, and well, we'll see you again.
Well,
yeah, thank you.
Some more information coming. The food from Bybrook Barn apparently it is dry and a little like cat food, and apparently the hedgehog loves it.
Yeah, well, I do feed them dry food.
Susie and Steve have also come back, and apparently the reason that hedgehogs don't eat fish, apparently it makes their poo smelly and it passes through their digestive tract too quickly.
Ah, well, it's interesting. Thank you for that.
Brilliant.
And we've also just had Tony join, so hello, Tony, and welcome back, Ash.
Indeed. So brilliant. If you'd like to sort our screen out, please, young man. And at this point, we're going to move from Deb's back garden, and we're going to take a trip up north.
Oh, if I can get it to
and
work.
We've just got a little bit of juggling to do here with the screens. So that coming back to us, here we go. So Ross is going to do a little PowerPoint all about the West Highland Way. So give him a big round of applause for Ross and the West Highland Way. This is part of our wonderful walking platform, part one.
Yeah, so this is just a short section on a handful of pictures that I've taken from when I was in Scotland with Dad's. A little bit of backstory on it. So we actually went on holiday, I think it was 2008, 2009?
Something like that.
Something like that. And we stayed in a little cottage in the middle of a place called Tyndrum, which is pretty much up in the Highlands, one road in, one road out. And we were staying there, and the whole time we stayed in this cottage, the weather was torrential. It was proper Scottish weather, wind, rain, hail, you name it, it happened while we were there. And we had a couple of days where it cleared up, and we had, I think, a couple of hours on those days where you could get out and you could go for a walk. And we had a lot of times we go out and there'll be a lot of people walking past with big hiking rucksacks, walking boots, coats, everything. And I remember vaguely asking Dad, going, what are those people doing? Or I think it was more along the lines of when it was raining, what are those idiots doing outside? And then we kind of, when we actually got an opportunity to go out and have a wander around and have a walk, we actually discovered that it was the West Highland Way. Not that either of us knew what it was at the time. And I went, can we do that? And of course, an 8-year-old at the time can't really be carrying his life on his back and getting away with it. So I think, was it you came back a couple of years and we'll do it.
We built up generally. We started off, I had a very big pack and Ross had a tiny little pack, and we kind of swung the balance as it were. And in 2013, we reckon Ross was big enough and fit enough to go on the walk.
So yeah, no, and eventually in 2013, that was when we did it. So, oh, that's not going to work. This is going to be great fun. There we go. That works. So this is on the left. This is me. That's mini me in the middle there in a bright orange t-shirt. You know, because don't want to miss me apparently. And that was the start of the walk. And that's in the middle of a high street. You wouldn't expect to see the start of a complete countrified walk in the middle of a town centre on a high street. But this one was. So we started there. And the reason I put that in is just to show that nature is literally on your doorstep. You could leave your front door and within 10, 20 minutes be out in the middle of nowhere. And that was one of the things when we were in Scotland, it was so drastic, the changes in terrain, temperature, weather. It went from being hot and you're in t-shirt, you think, blimey, this is hot for Scotland. And within minutes, it's torrential downpours and the whole footpath is flooded and your feet are cold, you're wet. And it was very, very, it was one of them moments when you realise you're glad you're prepared for what you're coming into. And the picture on the right is a place we stopped. We found this random lake. We just come out of a long section of firm woodlands. And we come out of there, and then suddenly we found this lake, and it was about lunchtime. So I think we pulled up on a pew, just to the side. Well, I mean, I say a pew. I think we literally sat on the ground with our rucksacks as backrests. We sat down and we enjoyed the view because within minutes you've gone outside, you've walked through a woodland, and then suddenly you're at a lake which you didn't know was there. And I remember sitting down, and we put a kettle on. And we sat there, and within 5 minutes, the birds have come alive. Everything's come out and realised that we're not there to hurt it. And we sat there, and I remember I'm not entirely sure what breed of bird it was. There was a bird that kept flying from the reeds you can see on the right onto that wooden post that was in the middle. And I was really annoyed because I couldn't find the picture, but there was a picture we had. It was very blurry, but you could see the bird just sat on top of the post. And it was one of those experiences you think if we'd have gone, oh, we don't want to stop there and carried on walking for another 10, 20 minutes or stopped the other side of the lake, you wouldn't have seen it. And it's one of them moments you think, actually, yeah, it's nice that we stopped here and we actually got to see what we did. And it's one of them moments you appreciate actually what you can go and visit and what you can see and what nature is for itself. And this picture, these two pictures I included just to simply show the terrain change. The picture on the left was on top of a place called Conic Hills, which is essentially 3 hills on top, and on a map looked like 3 nipples. And we got to the top of them and we decided that we were going to have our lunch on top of a hill. So we've got a gas hob on top of this hill with 40, 50 mile an hour winds, trying to make a cup of tea and trying to block it in the best ways we possibly can. Whilst watching the view, and I think we ended up with a lukewarm cup of tea because we gave up in the end, and I think we settled for just lukewarm tea and some water. But this little island you can see on the left side of that top left picture, the one that's shaped, has got like a bit of a cove going on the left. That is a place called Inkyloch. Now, Inkyloch is a nature reserve in Scotland in the middle of, is it Loch Lomond?
Loch Lomond, yes.
It's a nature reserve in the middle of Loch Lomond. But it's only accessible by boat, and there's actually a campsite there which you can stay on. But the whole idea of the campsite is you live off what you take. There's no internet, there's no cafe, there's no showers, there's no modern commodities that you would have when you would go camping, like you'd have a toilet block and things like that. It's all geared up so you go there and you live within nature. The only thing they do have is a biodegradable toilet, which is basically when you do your business, you do your business onto a bed of sawdust and get a shovel and pour more sawdust down the toilet to clean it. And that's essentially bleaching it in the wild. And we stayed there because when we did the West Highland Way, we did it in in block days. So we do a block of days, and then we'd have a rest day. And we kind of tried to strategically plan our rest days so you would get the chance to appreciate where you were, or, oh, there's a shop there, we'll stop there so we can pick up supplies. Because your whole mindset changes when you're out on these kind of walks, which I'll get to that in a minute. And then this picture on the right, that is an image from the cove you can see on the top left picture down on the beach. And bear in mind, these photos were took on the same day. So that first picture you can see is about 40, 50 mile an hour winds on top of a hill with a high, dense clouds. I remember in the morning it was a bit of light rain and it was just a bit of a soggy day. But then by the time we've got down to the other side of these hills, we've got on the boat, we've crossed to the island, and we're on our own with all of our shopping. We're now in bright blue sunshine and it's t-shirt and shorts weather, and you can go out and you can go paddling into the loch. And it is amazing. I mean, Scotland's one of my favourite places, and if I could, I would live there. But it takes you a moment to appreciate the fact that that is the same day. And suddenly you've gone from being able to envisage a dark, doomy, gloomy day, and within a matter of hours, you're now looking at bright blue sunshine, picturesque, that you would think could be somewhere in America or somewhere in Canada, New Zealand. And it's quite fascinating sometimes to realise that is on your front door. And you can go and stay at these places where the rest of the world, it doesn't exist for that time of there. You stop in time and you just deal with everything that comes on a daily basis. Now, this next image, the left image, I believe, was our walk from Inveroran to Inveran, because the Scottish know how to name their places so you can depict which one's which is a great addition when you're trying to work it out on a map and you think one of you saying one thing and the other one saying the other. And the only reason I put this picture in is just to show the diversity of where you're walking and how easy and simple it is to lose yourself when you're there. Because this shows the real difference between the lowlands and the highlands, because this shows the valley in between, and you can see that throughout the winter months the river will run a lot higher than that, and you can see from the side of the river how high it will run. You've got landslides where the water's come so high up for the rainfall and snow, and you can see that on the right you can just about see the track on the right of the image where you're walking down. I remember there is a picture of a waterfall where all the vegetation has dropped off and it's just the clean stone. And where there's that much water at the top of the mountain, all you can see as you're walking along is someone's built, this is years and years ago, way before it became a national trail. And you get to see that there is an old wall that someone's built to stop people walking into it and walking around it. And they've carved it. So all you see is just the water falling underneath it, and it all falls back into the path underneath. And you don't get to see that. I mean, you will never see something like that without someone actually wanting to appreciate and taking the time and the care to do something like that. And it is just one of the most magical places to go out, and you can just lose yourself within everything out there. And I mean, the image on the right is a picture from, we had a shorter day and we only had about 4 or 5 miles to walk that day. So we stopped off for, once again, another cup of tea, but this one wasn't in 50 mile an hour winds, which is always a little bit better. And we ended up sitting down by this waterfall, and it was amazing to see, like, you've gone from this calm, picturesque part of nature where everything's moving a little bit slower, and then you realise that nature itself actually is still in control, and if you were to mess with it sometimes, you aren't going to win. And that was in the moments you see the way the water's falling. It's live, it's aggressive, it's everything that you want to avoid when you're in nature. And it's one of them moments when you realise, actually, as much as you're fully in control of what you're doing, you always have to stay fully in control of everything that you're doing. Every moment of the day, you've got to make sure when you're out on these walks that you have to take part and just make sure that everything you do, you can justify, and is it worth me doing? Now, these two images are both images, well, the one on the left is more like PTSD than a good memory because about 30 seconds after that image was taken, I was face first in the tarmac after tripping on a pothole, which I was just about to put my foot in, as you can see in the image. And within 30 seconds of that picture going up, next thing you know, I'm face down, grazed face, grazed elbows, with a whole pack on my back, which weighs about same body weight, I think it's about 85 litres of equipment, materials, everything on my back at 13, not really know what to do, tired because the campsite we were staying in is just the other side of the white building you can see right at the end. So I've kind of lost my foot and a little bit tired and just fallen over. I wasn't very happy with that. But the image on the right is the same building you can see from the image on the left, which is the same. This is the same day. This is within a matter of hours of each other. And we got to the campsite. We set up on one of the pitches after 4 or 5 of them had been trashed previously. And we found one that we liked. It was by the river. It was calming. When we saw a deer that evening. And then the weather took a turn for the worse just after we cooked dinner. I remember we heard this almighty roar come from over the mountains. We got out of the tent and we had a look, saw what it was. And this mountain rescue helicopter has come down. They've just parked the helicopter. I mean, I don't know if do you park a helicopter? Land the helicopter, just parked it in the middle of the field in the pub garden. And about 5 of them have got out of the helicopter, walked into the pub, had a pint, and about 20 minutes, half hour later, they must have all thought, yeah, we've had one. And they all got back in the helicopter and disappeared. Now, if we weren't there, out in the middle of nowhere, walking and justifying being there, you would never have known that a helicopter was going to turn up. They get out for a quick pint, like the builders and everyone does after work on a Friday, get back in a helicopter and drive off or fly off. Now, that's one of them things you would never see if you weren't there. And that's one of them moments you can always be appreciative for, because once again, you wouldn't have seen it if you hadn't decided to be that far out in the wildlife, in the middle of the Highlands in Scotland.
Incidentally, there's actually a really good story about that campsite, which we decided we wouldn't include on here at the moment. But if you want to ask me elsewhere another time, I'm more than happy to tell you a story, because it is actually quite entertaining. I would also just add, if we sort of think about how things are memorable, one of the things you do as a young adult or as people now, the image of Ross just before he fell over, he's actually got as a tattoo on his arm.
Not that you can see it.
Not that you can see it at the moment, but it's one of those that stands out in Ross's memories that he wanted to have marked on him forever.
Not you can exactly see it, but it is there.
So there you go. Anyway, I interrupt.
And I also have the West Highland Way on my elbow, just because why not, pretty much. Now, next one. Now, this was a place called Kinloch Leven that we stayed in, and this is the day after we've just seen the helicopter come down and decide that they wanted to go for a quick pint. Now, we woke up in the morning after we seen a helicopter, and it was torrential rain. The midges were thick and fast in clouds. Like the kettle was black by the time it boiled, and it was a grey kettle. And by the time you got your cup of tea, it had gained so much extra protein you didn't need to add milk to even get a different coloured cup of tea. It was that bad. So I think we ended up scrapping that idea and ended up just packing up and getting on the trail. And now we got up and we got onto Devil's Staircase, which was this very vertical path that wound up this mountainside. And then you get to the top of it, and the other side, again, the weather changed. It started to clear up, started to become sunny. But the whole way around the top of the mountainside to get to Kinloch Leven, the whole area was just, you could see where you wanted to be, but you weren't getting there because all you seemed to be doing was just walking round and round and round the mountainside in the Highlands to come down into this village. I remember we spoke to a lady the next day in the town, because it was one of our rest days, and she basically said they never looked at the weather forecast. They just looked over the mountain, whichever direction the wind was blowing, and saw what was coming. And that was one of them moments you realise that actually, yeah, you're that deep in the Highlands that you need You don't need to look at the weather. You don't need to be on your phone looking, oh, it's going to be wet today. Oh, it's going to be really nice today. You just got to look at the sky when you wake up, find out where the wind's blowing, and look for yourself. And then this is the last image, or the last two images. One on the left, I've put in. We can't actually remember where it is, but we vaguely remember talking about the mountainside and saying, well, why is it like that? And we spent a lot of time wondering and pondering until we actually met a local, and we asked him. He said, what it was is where it's so torrential during the winter, it's actually a landslide. And where it, obviously during the summer, it all combines and everything grows and all the bushes grow and the trees grow. And then when it gets to winter, it gets so wet that the whole place just starts to fall apart. And it starts to pull apart because there's that much weight in the soil and the water that it all pulls itself apart. And that's why you then get the fresh vegetation grow through, because all that soil is full of nutrients and stuff at the bottom. So it's all come through and come to the top. And then we just thought at the moment, how picturesque is that for a picture? I mean, ignore the 13-year-old wet, soggy, disgusting me in the bottom, but just take me out of it and take it for what it is how versatile and how amazing our country is. And you would never see anything like that around here, but it shows it's not that far away. You haven't got to travel to New Zealand, America, Canada to see things like that. And the image on the right, I mean, this was after breaking, a couple of Germans have broken the sign, which is why it's wonky, on Dad's side. And it was just a moment, and I think it was a mark for the two of us, where we knew we'd achieved something. And it wasn't something that everyone would want to go and achieve, but it was something that we knew we'd planned for 4 or 5 years before. And we knew what we wanted to go and achieve. And we achieved it, no matter the weather, no matter what was thrown at us, we achieved it. And I think we did end up living off tinned baked beans and tin burgers one night. Don't ever buy tin burgers, bit of advice for you, don't ever buy them. They are absolutely disgusting. But definitely try and, if you can, find somewhere and go on a trip that you can use and you can go and do. If you've got the abilities to go out and do something like that, do it, because you'll never regret it. And that is going to stay with me for life, because that is one of the most memorable trips I had from my childhood. And there's not many people my age that can say way back when I did something like that. Now, I will pass back to Dad, because you're probably sick of hearing my voice now. So we will just come out of this. Oh, we don't want to be doing that. And we will shut that down. Sorry, 1 second. We're just having a bit of fun.
Oh. So
there we go.
That's brilliant. It was, I have to admit, it's lovely to be able to go out with your son and spend best part of a fortnight out in the wild, where a whole life, if you like, was wake up, eat, break camp, walk, and then at the end of the day, you make camp, you eat, and you crash. And that kind of becomes your whole world. And it's really simple, and it's really basic, and it's lovely. In fact, it's quite amazing. When we came back into Wi-Fi signal, whereas Ross had just been mucking in and doing everything, all of a sudden he's on his phone. It's like almost like a personality change. So yeah, that was brilliant. And we'll have more about walks as we progress. Is Ash still with us? I've had a message saying that he's been having internet problems.
No, he's been messaging me, mate. He says he's totally down. He's been trying to reboot. He's on, but he's got no signal. So he's having trouble.
Right. Well, if he reappears, we'll get him on as quickly as possible. And if not, we'll have to ask him really nicely if he'll join us again next week for his article. What we'll do now is we're going to move on to a little video in a section that we're going to call Dawn Stories.
Oh, we just had a section from Vicky come in. Great pictures. I've been to the Highlands and the pictures don't do it justice. Totally different world. I couldn't agree more. I could not agree more. It is so amazing up there. The things you get to see, and it's not even like living a different life. You could go out there and live in a cottage that's got every mock on. It's just being like that in that kind of place is just phenomenal. Like to wake up and get out of a tent or go out your front door, wherever you're staying in a cabin, doesn't matter where it is, and you've just got that view you wake up to. There's not many places you get that, and Scotland in the Highlands is one of them.
It is. I think one of the things also about these trips is when you appreciate that there are fantastic places in the world, it actually makes you look at what's on your own back doorstep. And one of the reasons we live where we live is because we are 5 minutes from the countryside at the moment. Anyway, we're moving swiftly onwards. We've got this section called Dawn Stories. This time of year, many people suffer from what they call seasonally affected disorder, SAD kind of syndrome, where they, because it's so much darker, and they, if you like, not getting that sunshine, it can make them feel restless or unhappy or maybe depressed. And we do want to touch on the mental health aspect of the countryside and how it can make you feel better when you get out there, when the wind is blowing, and letting it blow away your worries and your concerns. But one of the ways to make the day longer almost is actually to get up and see the dawn. I could talk about this video too much, but probably everything I would tell you is in it. So this is a video that I shot on Tuesday morning, out in the dawn. So enjoy.
Never let you go. Good morning, Simon here for the Simple Life Circle. It's 6 o'clock, it's 4 days after the full moon of Samhain, or Halloween as people nowadays tend to refer to it. So the moon is full and you can see the sky, you can see the cloud formations and the moon. It's fantastic. But if I turn around, and now the camera is facing back to the east, look at that dawn sky. It is beautiful, it is magical, it is alive. Look at the colours of the orangey glow above the hills, and as we move up past the clouds to the blue, look at those formations in the sky. It's magical. It is the most amazing time of day to be alive. It's just, the wind is slightly blowing, it's blowing away my worries, it's blowing away my concerns. This is the most amazing time of day for me. Now, I'm one of those people, I do not like getting out of bed. I absolutely hate it. But I love getting up for this. This is one of those alive moments. You know, the outdoors is part of our DNA, it's part of our heritage. And getting up and getting out and seeing sights like this has been fantastic. And what a year of dawns we've had. It's been amazing. We're moving towards the longest night, which is the 21st of December, Yule. So, if you like, the dawn's been getting later and later, and because I had to get up for work, I've missed some of those dawns. But I love it when the clocks go back in autumn, and all of a sudden, the dawns become available to me again. So, maybe in these dark days ahead, being that bit later, make that move to get up just a little bit earlier and get out. Feel the breeze on your face. Let it wash away those worries and concerns that we have going into the next lockdown, and feel alive. It's a responsibility to us. Enjoy as much as we can of the world that we have around us. Whatever is going on. So that's it for me. If there's one hint you can take from this, get up a little earlier, even if it's just to look out of the window and see the brilliant beginning to another fantastic new day. Why wouldn't you do that? Thank you very much. Never let you go.
Oh, incidentally, within 2 minutes of turning off the camera and carrying on with the walk, and that orange sky had completely gone. So it really was a case of catching and living that moment. As I said earlier, we'd love it if you've got some stories from a walk or from the dawn, and if you wanted to come on and talk about them, or if you could send us a short video, that would be fantastic. One of the things that we're also got is a Facebook group out there now. It's called Simple Life Circle. We're going to put the recording of this on there, but if either you can put things on there and we'll pick some good ones to use, or just communicate with us through there or any other means. And we'd love to get people to come on and share their stories as well and make it interactive. Now, one of the things that we want to do, and Ross is just going to talk briefly, is we want to look at ways, and we're asking for some help to try and get people of Ross's generation to get involved and have some enthusiasm for the outside, because, I mean, again, Ross has got that. I'll let Ross tell you, otherwise it's me again. So, Ross.
No, we just had come through the group chat with Gillian saying she's loving the passion, sharing, connecting with our loved ones is priceless. Billy's just put, I agree, hearing stories and hearing the passion is so refreshing. Sally has just left us. She said she's got to go, but thank you so much. Presentation was really interesting, and Simon, the video was great. Which is what we like to hear. So if you haven't got any constructive criticism, if you do have to leave early, please let us know in the chat. But no, I mean, carry on from the passion, refreshing stuff, as you can see the amount of passion that I have for being out hiking and being taken away from the modern life that we all know. And what I would like to do from talking to a lot of my friends is try and get them outside. But the hardest part is actually getting them to answer questions. I've asked a handful of them so far. And then as soon as I say, what makes you want to get outside? They all just go, nothing, not interested, doesn't bother me. But then when you actually start to depict and you ask questions, I mean, I'm quite fortunate because I know them. I can ask those questions because I was there. So asking, refreshing their memory, jogging their memory from when we were anywhere between 12 and 16, when we go out in the woods and we play, things like that. But it's trying to get people's feedback on how would you ask the question to people that I don't necessarily know that are my age group. How do you reckon, any ideas on how we can bring my age group to this, and we can combine Dad's age group, the older generation, the much older generation, into my generation, and how we can bring it all from being two separate entities to one. And if you've got any ideas, please let me know on the Facebook group. Please let me know in the chat. Any ideas would be gratefully appreciated. And Vicky's just come back with, I wish I could go for a safe walk in the woods. I love the smells and the colours. My favourite time of year.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
So, as Ross has just said, we're coming towards a close. We would love you to get involved. We'd love you to be a part of this. Please use the Facebook group. Talk to us in any way, shape or form. We will be back here next week, and we'd love you to come and join us. Please tell your friends. Tell them it's been amazing. I've enjoyed it.
It's free. It's completely free.
For the whole of November.
For all of November, it is free.
So that would be fantastic. But a parting shot right now, just something to think about, is one of the beauties of, dare I say, a couple of years more than him.
And the rest.
Is just slightly changing the way that you think about things. But there's a really great concept, the difference between wanting something and letting it happen.
We've got a couple of questions here.
I've just a couple of examples. You want to go to sleep of an evening, but you have to let it happen. You might want to have a fantastic garden, and you can design it, and you can put the plants in, and you can build it. But for it to become fantastic, you have to let it happen. And if you think about so many of the things in life, in business, you plan it, you sort it, you put things in, you do stuff, and then you have to let it happen. And when you acknowledge the difference between wanting and letting, that's quite a major step I think, in actually enjoying the things that we do. After all, the journey is just as good, another cliche, as the destination. So we've got a couple of comments and then we're going to wrap up.
We just had a question come in from Judy. She said she was interested in a hedgehog box. What would you recommend her to get?
We've got a local gentleman who makes them. He actually recycles pallets and things. If you contact us, then we can organise that for you. They are, for the work that goes into them, they're really good value. But we can have a chat and maybe we can see if we can get into supply us some if we could order enough, maybe at a really decent price.
I mean, we can get some images and put them into the Facebook group
Yeah.
so everyone can see what they look like, and if there's something that everyone be interested in. If you are interested in getting on the map with hedgehogs, if that's
Yeah.
what you're after,
But
then we'll see what we can do.
they're great. They've got an entrance chamber so that they can go in, obviously brush off their feet, and then there's another little door which goes into the rest compartment, which actually helps to kind of like slow down the amount of breeze that's going in. But they've also got a really nice flip top lid, so that in the spring when the hedgehogs stop using it, you can actually get in there and clean them out, because any kind of animal box, bird boxes are the same. If you don't clean them out, they're not entirely very hygienic.
We've got a couple of just thank you messages. We've got Judith who's just come back. Great interactive session. Thank you very much. Lydia's come back with thank you. Lots to reflect on. Lucy's come back with thanks, guys. Great to have a change from the TV and think about what is on our doorstep to enjoy. Judith's just put, I love getting out in the evening to catch the sunset, especially over the coast. Tony has put, nice one, guys. Love the photos and the story from Scotland. And Jack said he wants to go there. So that's always a start. If you get up in the Highlands now, Tony, and then you've got about 5 or 6 years to prep.
Brilliant. Well, maybe we should get some, when we get back into the real world, we'll get some walking together. But again, I think that's pretty much it. So thank you very much for coming. We really hope you'll join us again next week and get involved with the Facebook group and come part of this. Bring a video, bring a story, and
Verbo's just said our own spring watch.
Autumn, Verbo, autumn.
Autumn watch.
All right, anyway, thank you very much for coming and we'll catch you all soon.